You're watching Let the Quran Speak, and we are looking at misunderstood Quranic verses. The verse today is from chapter 19, verse 71, and it's about hell. And it seems to suggest that people will either go to hell or go through it or enter it. And it's referring to believers, it seems. So we'll be looking at that now. Dr. Shabir, what does this verse actually mean? Is it talking about every believer going to hell, going through it, approaching it? I don't really know. So I'm asking you now, Dr. Shabir.
Yeah.
The verse, let me translate it for you. It says, and all of you will go through it. This is a decree from your Lord that must be fulfilled. This is the Cascas translation, but I'm sure if you look at any other translation, there might be a different way of interpreting this verse. So critics have said, look, does this mean everybody's going to hell, even the believers? So how do you respond to that, Dr. Shabir?
So the verse literally says, وَإِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا, and there is none of you except that will. Now, wariduha, I leave that untranslated so I can explain it. It could either mean come to it or pass over it or pass through it or like enter it. So because it starts out by saying وَإِن مِّنكُمْ, there is none of you, illa, except, that means it seems to be very general to encompass all people. And what the classical commentators tried to do was they tried to make a verse mean like the maximum it could mean, right? So take things as literally as possible. It says all of you, right? So it must mean all of you, and that would be all human beings. But if they had just simply looked at the verse just before this one, like, and taken that into consideration as it should be, then they would realize that it's a limited number of people that the Quran is talking about here, because it says that God knows which among you are the most deserving of burning in the fire. And even a few verses before that, starting with verse number 66, we will see that the discourse had changed and turned towards those who are doubting the existence of the life hereafter. And they're asking, after we're dead and buried, are we going to be resurrected back to life? And God says, don't worry, we're going to gather all of you and the devils together. And then we will select from every group those who are most deserving to be punished in the fire. And moreover, we know those who are most deserving to be punished in the fire. And then addressing, obviously, those people who are selected from those groups who are most deserving to be in the fire, God is saying to them, there is none of you except that will either come to it or pass through it or pass over it, something of this nature. The word warid could mean either arrive at or enter. The idea that everyone, believers and all, will come to the fire, once that was accepted by the most classical Muslim commentators, they had to find a way for the believers to, be freed of that. And because obviously it's unthinkable. The whole Islamic faith is built on the idea that there's heaven and hell. You do good, you go to heaven. You do bad, you go to hell. So if everybody's going to go to hell, well, then you have to find a way to get the believers out, and very quickly. How did they explain this? Well, they said, well, there is a sirat, there is a bridge over paradise, over hell, that leads directly into paradise. So the believers will cross over that bridge, like in a flash of lightning. So they've passed over it, but they haven't entered it. Whereas some others, depending on their evil deeds, they will be cut, because the sirat, this bridge, is thinner than a hair and sharper than a sword. So people will be cut to pieces and fall into hell, where of course they will be tormented. And so they have it both ways, right? You're passing over the hell. Some would even have it that you're passing through it. Some, without much comment, would just simply say that the believers will pass through it. They will enter it, but they will be taken out almost like immediately, though they don't use these terms. You have to infer from what they're saying that this is what they obviously must mean, because it's unthinkable that the believers too will enter hell. But all this misunderstanding arose because they didn't pay such close attention to the context. And this misunderstanding has been picked up by critics, especially missionaries for another faith, because they come to Muslims and say, we are saved. Are you saved? Well, how can you be sure that you're saved when you're own commentators on the Quran say that all believers will enter hell. So that means you'll have to enter hell as well. And nobody wants to be in there for a moment, even if you say, like, what's the point of going through it to experience any of it if you're a believer and you've been doing all good throughout your lives. Whereas if the commentators had paid careful attention, the 66th verse in the same surah speaks about believers, and it says that Jannah has been prepared for those who are aware of their duty to God, right? So, and they will be in paradise. So the two groups are contrasted: believers in paradise, non-believers in hell. It's really bizarre that the classical commentators fell into this mistake, and once the mistake has been arrived at, like later commentators just simply copied and reproduced the error without really going further and examining it further.
I guess it's just so important to understand the Quran within the context of other verses, right? If
Yes.
you're reading a verse, you need to make sure that you read the surrounding verses to get a full understanding of what
That's
it's saying.
such a basic first step that it's bizarre that they have omitted it, and then they go to major like accretions and theories in order to first they trap themselves and then they try to get out of it by these other theories. So as for sirat in Arabic is used in the opening chapter of the Quran when we ask God, Sirat al-Mustaqim, guide us on the right path, so the straight path. This sirat is mentioned dozens of times in the Quran with this meaning. Sometimes it is used Sirat Allah, the path of God, and so on, right? But never is it used to mean a bridge that crosses over hell and goes into paradise. In fact, there is a mention of Sirat al-Jahim, where in Surah al-Safat, the 37th chapter of the Quran, clearly we're talking about disbelievers in this context, and as mentioned in the passage, and there the Quran says that on Yawm al-Fasl, on the Day of Judgment, God will direct for the angels to guide the miscreant people to Sirat al-Jahim. That is the path of Jahannam. That would mean the path leading to hell. It's not a bridge that crosses over the paradise. Now, I'm not saying that such a bridge does not exist, and that people will not cross over it, and that believers will not use it to enter into paradise. But I'm saying that the crucial problem here is that the commentators, they would have it that the believers have to inevitably go into hell or arrive at hell, or to put a lighter side on it, would cross over hell. And hence they need that sirat. But without that explanation, the need for the sirat that they speak about is not self-evident. And of course, it's not clear from the Quran that such a bridge exists, though it has come down as a very like a disputed thing in Islamic history, but one on which the Sunnis hold dear. So if there's a list of things that Sunnis must believe in, it will be said, you must believe that there is this sirat. And I have no difficulty believing that the sirat exists and it will be used in the way that is described. But to think of it as the way to explain this particular verse, I think is quite unnecessary.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.